Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be doing another game room tour featuring a good friend of mine, Zach's collection. We're down in his basement / the game room, and he has quite an impressive collection. And how many games are down here to say?
Just over 7,200 games, and some of them I actually have two of because one is sealed and one is opened.
So there's tons of variants, tons of games. I think he even has a handful of box consoles. There's a lot of stuff for us to get into, but before we get into everything down here, he actually does have some variations into his collection, like movie theater posters, which we're going to be starting off upstairs, and there is some things that are game related as well. So we're going to make our way up there and then slowly work our way back downstairs and kind of dive into the game room.
All right, guys, as Dylan was saying, I am actually into movie posters. One of my, I believe, most expensive ones is right here next to me. It is for the original Spider-Man. And as you guys can see in either this shot or the B-roll that Dylan will be doing, is actually the Twin Towers that are in the reflection of his eye. And this movie poster was actually up, and it happened right before, it was up as 9/11 happened. And so they actually pulled it down because of the Twin Towers being there, of course. And so it's actually a lot harder to find than the other Spider-Man movie posters. So that's why it holds its worth. Above it, as you can see, I have actually a PlayStation sign, as you can see illuminated right now. I actually picked that up from Target. I actually used to work for Target, and as we were demoing the display cases and such and transitioning to the newer display cases, they were going to be tossing this out, and I asked if I could take it home. They said sure, so here it is. All right, guys, this is actually in the same room. I have a few more posters here. My favorite actually being The Matrix. That is my favorite movie of all time. The first one, I should say. Not too much of a fan of the second and third, or even the fourth, yet the fourth was pretty cool with it referencing the first three. But as you can see here in the episode 1 for Star Wars, you have young Anakin here, but then as the shadow of Darth Vader. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's why I have it up here. And then as you can see, I have GoldenEye, which of course, can't recall what came first, but of course there's the video game for GoldenEye. And then just love the shot of the Apollo 13 movie poster. So this is another one of my movie posters. As you can see, it is for the Super Mario Brothers movie. This is actually called a teaser movie poster, as it doesn't show any of the names or anything. It just shows that it's coming out. And it's not too many of them out there. Probably not worth too much yet, but hopefully in the future it will be. I do have it, of course, framed here, and certainly enjoy it. So that's everything up here on the upper level. Let's head down to the basement and check out the game room. And as you can see, I have a few things around on the sides here, comic book related stuff. And then coming down here to video game related stuff, and then the start of the game room. So we're going to start off with my earliest remembrance of playing video games, which is the NES. Yes, I am that old. No, I'm just kidding. So my very, very earliest remembrance of playing video games is actually playing the original Super Mario Brothers, actually in an arcade. So I was actually playing an arcade game of Super Mario Brothers. And then later on, either that year or the next year, I got it actually for Christmas from my parents, along with the system as well. So that was pretty fun. A couple of other games that I enjoyed playing. Cobra Triangle. It's not worth a ton, but I certainly enjoy playing this game, along with Double Dribble is another one that I enjoyed as well. That one I actually have a box for. It's not in the greatest shape, but I do have that. And then a couple others. RC Pro-Am. I wish I had the second one, but I do have the first one. That one was another fun one to play growing up as well. And then my favorite sports game on the NES was RBI Baseball. And I just love this game. I still play it to this day. It's something that I can usually 10-run roll the other team as I'm playing it. So it's usually a short game.
And I might get backlash, but I have not tried that yet.
Oh my goodness.
The RBI.
Oh.
Yeah. Am I missing out? Because this is where I don't mean to burst your bubble, but I look at it as like a sports title, and I'd be like, bleh, you know, so.
Yeah, so that is something that people do think about, but it's very simple and basic, but it's a very fun game to play.
Have to give it a try. I think I've actually came across a couple of those copies before. Yeah, not complete in box, but loose copies. Yeah,
gotta give it a roll. And then one of my most expensive games, I'll just throw that on the bottom, is actually something I picked up last year.
Is that Contra? No.
Super C.
Oh, Super C.
Yeah.
At first looked like Contra.
That is complete in box. It does have a few wrinkles and then stickers on the top here. This one I actually got at a garage sale. I'm sorry, not a garage sale. It was actually a Facebook post, and they were giving away old video games. So I immediately messaged them, got there, and this was included in that. I had actually ended up giving them some money because I could not just take all the games for zero amount.
I mean, especially with something like that, though, yeah. It's not your everyday find.
It did actually have some writing on it, which I was able to get off, but not completely. You can actually still slightly see it just a little bit here, but it actually looks a lot better. So then we'll move on to Super Nintendo. Let's look at my Super Nintendo collection here. I actually did not grow up owning a Super Nintendo, so all of this has been accumulated from my collecting. And so a couple of games of note is Earthbound. I actually just picked this up. It is just a loose copy.
How long ago did you get this copy?
So this was just a few months ago. I believe it was actually November, if I remember correctly.
And to let people know, though, just because you said with the Super Nintendo, you just started, like, this has been a part of your collecting journey, you never grew up with it. How long have you been collecting now? So everything you're seeing down here.
Good question. I have actually been actively collecting for the last 6.5 years.
So just for everybody who doesn't think collecting is impossible into the late 2020s and moving forward, like he said, just in a matter of 6 years. And yes, anything you do is going to take time, but he has still built up a beautiful collection down here.
I have also purchased all these protectors through retroprotection.com. I buy them in bulk so that I save so much money on them. I think it displays it really nicely. Of course, it also helps for if they happen to drop out of my little display here. Adds that little bit of protection to it. And of course, it's nice to see the different titles on the spine.
And I know we're not into N64 yet, but on the topic of cases, do you want to show actually? Because I thought this was a pretty neat idea for anybody out there who has a big N64 collection, what you do with the cases and the custom labels.
Yeah, we might as well talk about it right now since we're right here. So I'll just grab it out of the end here. What I have actually done is, of course, picked up the end labels because the N64 games do not have end labels, and I have actually put the label on the protector itself so that if I ever get a upgrade to a condition of a game, I just swap out the cartridge
loose cart. Yes.
Having to move the label from one to the other.
And for any of you guys that are watching that are not doing this, I don't have an N64 collection, but let me tell you, I think this is one of the smartest things that I've ever seen because I like the idea of doing the condition upgrades, but not having to repurchase those labels every single time. So that is a great idea.
They do peel off and get reapplied pretty easily, but you don't want to continually do that and then have it not being able to reapply and then having to buy the whole collection again just for a couple of games. So I just thought it would maybe look a little bit better this way, and I think it looks really good. And since we're still working on N64 here as well, just actually picked up Conkers. This was last year on an Ask at a garage sale.
A garage sale find.
That is correct.
Do you recall what you accumulated this for at the sale? Like, was it just Conkers or did it come into a lot?
I got a lot of just games, and I think it came with 1 or 2 controllers. And I maybe picked up maybe 8 or 10 games, including Conkers, of course, and paid $80 for the whole thing.
That is not bad. So Moral of the story, garage sales, you can still find some decent games.
And ask.
That is very true. Always ask. If I don't see any games on the table, you'd be surprised how many people pull out an old box from the closet.
In fact, we'll probably get into that a little bit later in this video, talking about that a little bit further. As you can see, I have some more N64 games here. Now, I did actually have a very small collection growing up, but it wasn't very big, certainly not this size.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt on the N64, but I feel like since we're still in the same corner, some of my favorite things, and I'd love to talk about this because I used to have all three here, and I'd like to get them back in the collection. The Virtual Boy, the Power Glove, and Rob the Robot.
Rob the Robot. So I'll just start with the one closest to me here. Virtual Boy. I actually paid $40 for that at a thrift store.
A $40 find right there.
Yeah, it wasn't actually working when I first purchased it, but looking at the controller port and the little springs inside, the spring had come kind of been jarred loose a little bit, so I was able to get that back into where it should have been, fixed it right up, and I of course cleaned out a little bit of battery corrosion as well, but powered right back on once I got all that completed. It did come with one game. I can't remember. I believe it was Mario's Tennis, and then I've picked up 2 other games since.
I think the only one I had, if I remember, was Red Alarm, and I think I had some Mario game, but I can't remember. It was probably Mario Tennis. I didn't have very many. Granted, I think there's only, 14 on the library? Yeah, it's pretty small.
Would have been nice to get that Jack Bros along with the system. That would have been a sweet pickup.
For $40, yeah.
It didn't happen, of course, but certainly happy to pick that up. And then on to the next one. It is the Power Glove. I believe, if I remember correctly, it is the medium size. And it does actually, I did get it with the sensor bars and such as well. I just don't have it displayed with the glove itself. I have that back packed away. I know they don't play very easily, so I'm not going to actually try it out. And then the last thing here is actually the Rob the Robot. I have just a few other collectible things on it here, the Game Genie and looks like a Pokeball as well. It is missing the little spinners, which is unfortunate, but I actually picked this up with the deluxe set box at a garage sale, again on an ask. And so that was pretty fun. Can't recall what I paid for that. I believe it was $100 for the whole thing. It did, I believe, come with a system, but not the inserts as far as the styrofoam, unfortunately.
Styrofoam seems to be, every time I've found a box console, what is missing. Yeah. And somebody needs to make reproductions. I think it's a niche market, but I think people would pick it up if I'm honest.
Yeah. And I actually did have a deluxe set growing up. That was actually that video game that I was talking about as far as that first Christmas with the Super Mario Brothers. It wasn't actually this exact deluxe set that I have now. This is from the new system that I just picked up. The Rob the Robot that I had growing up, unfortunately, didn't make it through a move. So that's why I don't have it.
Wonder where that would be at now. Probably, it wasn't sold off, or was it left in the house?
I don't know. I was pretty young when we moved, and so I'm not quite sure what happened. Likely was not left in the house, but maybe sold or, unfortunately, trashed. Then actually behind it, you have a couple of my Switch games. My actually most expensive Switch game, which is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That is actually complete in box sealed. I did actually pick that up at a Goodwill, and it does unfortunately have a little bit of sticker residue here in the top corner.
I mean, Goodwill, not to interrupt, but that's already impressive as it sits. Yep. I do not find much from Goodwill anymore. Yeah.
So this was earlier on. A few years ago, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't think this it was out for very long when I picked this up, and I picked that up for $90 at the Goodwill. So they did price it up because they knew it was worth something, but still I think it was a good deal. There was actually a second one there that I passed up on. I just didn't have the funds for it. Now, of course, I wish I had picked it up. And then the Metroid Dread I actually just picked up at a video game swap. I traded some games for. And so I just thought that was a pretty cool piece to put next to the Xenoblade there, and love Metroid growing up, especially the original. That was actually, I should have maybe brought that up with the NES collection. I enjoyed playing Metroid. Of course, playing Metroid Prime has certainly been fun, especially the remaster. So maybe we should move into the GameCube next. All right, guys, so here's my GameCube collection. It is pretty decent size, but of course with COVID, it's been harder to get GameCube games with them going up in price. So I did actually grow up having a GameCube as well, so some of these are from the childhood, but some of the notable ones, which is actually pretty cool. One of my favorite pieces of my collection, it's probably not the most expensive, but it's probably up there. I do have actually a Wind Waker still sealed. And the funny thing about this is that I purchased this item from Target myself, and I just never opened it.
So was this like intentionally not meant to be open, or was this something you just never got around to?
I just never got around to it.
Okay.
When I was, I believe when I bought this, I was in the middle of playing Final Fantasy VII on the original PlayStation, and so that took up so much of my time playing that and enjoying that so much that I just never opened this. And then as I got around to starting to collect a little bit more, I found this still being sealed, and of course kept it sealed. Unfortunately, I've yet to find an open copy, so I've yet to even play Wind Waker out of every system. I do have it on the Wii U at this point, but I want to actually play it on the original GameCube first before playing it on any other systems, just so I get that feel. And I do know that a lot of people really enjoy it, but I just have yet to play it, which is pretty, for me, is kind of unheard of because I love Zelda. I usually play Zeldas on almost every of the systems. So I'm just looking forward to finding that open copy out in the wild somewhere and then giving it a go here.
And once again, though, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, so maybe I'm repeating myself, but with you saying finding an open copy, I don't know if you mentioned, how do you source for all of these games? Do you ever pay eBay retail, or what's kind of your motive behind that?
No, I do not pay retail, or at least I typically try not to. I will go to swaps or video game stores and do trades with stuff that I've picked up at garage sales and such, but I do not purchase anything off of eBay as far as games. I only look for games at thrift stores, garage sales, Facebook Marketplace for good deals. So that's where I get my stuff. And like I said, I've been doing it for over 6 years here. And as you can see, I've amassed a pretty good collection, and we have yet to even hit some of the other systems. So.
Which is just, once again, more proof. And I think it's very neat, and it's just out there for maybe inspiration to people that it is still very possible if you'd like to accumulate a gigantic library, especially doing it for a bargain.
Another game here that's as of note.
I've actually owned this back in the day.
F-Zero GX. So talking about finding things out in the wild, I actually picked up this exact copy at a local thrift store for $3.
Yeah, if you see pretty much nowadays anything for $3 GameCube, you're going to be picking it up.
Yep. It was actually in with all the DVDs, and so I was...
That is another thing, actually, what you just brought up. A tip for anybody that wants to game hunt or add to their collection. What Zach just said. Check the DVD and CD section, because you would be very surprised how many people mistake, especially right here. You'll see PlayStation 1s, even what he just said with GameCube, they don't quite realize it's a video game, so then it gets tucked into the CDs. I think actually it's on the DS called Room 315 or somewhere around there, if you know what I'm talking about. It's Room something. It's like a point-and-click horror game on the original DS. I'll have it overlaid.
15, I believe.
You might honestly have it in your collection, but nonetheless, the reason I bring it up is I actually found that tucked in with all the CDs. Somebody mistaken it for that, and it was actually a decent find. It was like a $30 game that they had for a couple bucks.
Another thing that's pretty fun, I can't remember what case it's in here, but it's in one of these cases. Nope, that's Geist, just an original copy, or a loose copy, I should say. Anytime I have just a loose game, I put it in a loose case here and put it in the collection. But so here is my Game Boy player disc. This was actually found yet again at a Goodwill. This was actually tucked in to another game, which is kind of strange because the game that it was tucked into was actually the wrong game for the case that it was in.
So basically 2 wrong things into one disc. Yeah.
In the wrong, in the case. So the cover art was different than the 2 games inside. So still on the lookout for finding maybe another copy of this with the correct case and sleeve, but still such a good find for a couple bucks at a Goodwill. And then as we move down the line here, I actually have moved all of my greatest hits, or player's choice, I suppose it's for Nintendo, to the end of my collection so that the yellow labels all match up with each other and make it looking a lot nicer. So that leaves the black labels all kind of in a row here.
And just in case if people are gonna ask, because I'm gonna point it out, he has a neat way. If you notice watching, clearly this one is upside down, and you'll see that maybe here and there throughout his collection. What is your reason for having the game in upside down?
Yeah. So as I pull this out, you can see it doesn't have either a manual or a game. So whenever you see a case that is upside down in my collection, it's typically in regards to the game itself. I don't, of course I'm looking for manuals, but if I don't have a manual, I won't flip it upside down. But if it's actually missing the game itself, but I have the cover art and the case for it, I'll flip it upside down. So that you may see that throughout my whole collection and my other systems as well. And then moving on to the player's choice, like I was mentioning, another fun one to kind of note about.
Paper Mario.
It's my Paper Mario.
Yeah, see it coming out.
And then again, just like Wind Waker, this is actually a sealed copy.
Oh, no way. Now, this is where I'm going to start this can of worms with you. What is your opinion on getting games graded? Because I'm not no expert, and I know it depends on condition and the seal, but when you have Wind Waker, when you have Paper Mario, I would say those are very good candidates to potentially get sent off. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I can see it going either way. I do like getting things sealed, so then you don't have to worry about the condition of it and keeping it sealed and keeping it in a good condition. Now, as far as displaying it, it is a little bit tougher to display a graded game. So you typically will show them with the, with the cover art showing out, because you can't really spine them very easily as much as some of the collections like this. So that's where it kind of comes into play for me. So I'm kind of on the fence at this point in regards to that. So I've thought about it. I know, of course, it takes some time, takes some money. So we'll see. At some point, I'll probably send in at least the Wind Waker, but maybe not the Paper Mario.
I think it would be pretty interesting to send them in to see what types of grades they get. I'm always curious with that.
Yeah, I hear you. So I think that's pretty much it for the GameCube. So since we're right here, we'll just move up to my DS and 3DS collections. One thing that you may actually also see throughout my collection is that sometimes I will have 2 of the same game next to each other. And if you can see through the video, some of the games will have a protective case around the second game versus the first one. And that's usually for sealed games. So if I can find them, I will get a open game so that I could play it in the future if I wanted to, and then keep the sealed game as well. So again, you can see a couple of cases here that are upside down, like we mentioned earlier. That's where the game is missing. Actually, a couple of them to note, which fortunately I don't remember where I got this one, but of course, Pokemon is always the games to get and hold on to.
Do you have every Pokemon game for the DS? Or are you still missing a few?
I do not. I am missing a few, and as you can see, the Pokemon Diamond is upside down, so I'm missing the game on that one. But I am missing, I believe, a couple more for the original DS. Getting a little tight in here. Oh, and I put it in backwards. I'll get that later. And then another one to kind of talk about real quick here. Rhythm Heaven.
I've never seen this before.
So this is actually a pretty decently priced game as well. And it's actually out on the Wii as well, and that's hard to find and kind of pricey. Now this one I actually just found last year at a garage sale, and it was pretty fun because I actually found maybe 7 or 8 empty cases, and just the cases, didn't have the games in them. And so I asked if they had the game somewhere else, and yes, they did. It was, of course, in the case with the original system itself, and so I was able to match them up from that and then get that complete. So I believe that's the second most expensive DS game that I own. Get that back in here. I have a couple that have some damage to it, unfortunately, but getting into the 3DS, my most expensive 3DS game is the Metroid Samus Returns. This one is actually complete. It's completely sealed, I should say. Now, actually, it's not quite sealed because it actually never came with an actual seal, but I purchased this myself at Target and never opened it. So I did mention earlier that I love playing Metroid, but I just haven't opened that one up and played it, and I'll of course be keeping it. Another one here to note is a Apocalypse.
Atlas too. That is a crazy looking cover. I like that a lot, actually.
And this one is also sealed as well. This one actually does have the seal on it. So that's another fun one to talk about. I actually do have this one loose, so if I ever want to play it, I can also play it as well too. So do have some of the Pokemons here. As you can see, one of them has a protective case, so that's a sealed one. I will actually get back into some Game Boy stuff here and handhelds as well. And so as you can see, I do have quite a bit of loose stuff. I do have some complete in box, even a couple of sealed games, but they're not worth too much. But as you can see, I do have a Kid Dracula, both the game and the manual itself. So this was pretty crazy. I did find this on an Ask at a garage sale last year, and the guy actually brought out the system along with it being in a case. And as I was looking it over, checking out the conditions and such, I noticed that Kid Dracula was in the back of the system itself. And so I didn't have a whole lot of cash on me at that point, but I did actually offer him some money, and I'll get to the amounts pretty soon here. And so what happened was he actually countered me and with a higher amount, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And it's because of Kid Dracula that I wanted to actually, of course, get this purchase. And so I actually had to run to the gas station to get some more cash, and I ended up paying $100 for Kid Dracula, a system, and a few other games. Now, Kid Dracula itself, I believe, the cartridge itself, I believe, goes for about $200, and then with the manual, it's about $250. Could be off, and it's been a while since I've looked at that. And then the other one of note is just a Pokemon Yellow. It does have a little bit of writing on the label, so that's unfortunate.
I don't need to repeat myself from Jordan's Game Room tour, but I did talk about that. That is my childhood Game Boy game right there, Yellow.
The Pokemon.
So I have good memories with that, yes.
And like I mentioned just a little bit ago, I actually have didn't grow up having a Game Boy or DS or anything like that, so I never really got into Pokemon, unfortunately. But of course, I'm finding games here and there, so of course I'm picking it up when I get a good deal. So I have a couple more back in there. I think I have silver, if I remember correctly, as well. But kind of hard to display those a little bit, but I thought I'd pull out the couple of nicer ones. So. All right, and then as you can see, a couple of, this is actually a brand new 2DS, and then I've actually started to grab the controllers from the Switch
box
online.
on that too is in pretty good condition as well.
Yep. So I actually purchased that myself from a Target, brand new, and so I paid full price for that. So one of the few times that I will actually pay full prices for the newer systems. So I suppose I kind of going back on myself a little bit in regards to that, but of course you're not going to be able to find a brand new 2DS out in the wild type of thing.
Yeah, very slim. Yeah, so
as you can see, it's kind of on the side here, I have a Mega Man, the gold version. I can't recall if they actually had any other colors in regards to that, and then a pretty beat up Chibi Robo. But as you can see, I actually did the Nintendo Selects last for the 3DS as well, so that's something to kind of note. And so since we're here, we'll actually just be moving down to the original Xbox. Now this is another system that I did not grow up on, so all of these have been pretty much found within the last 6 years or so. This is actually my most complete game collection, and I'm actively looking for Xbox games, and it's because they're cheap and they're a little bit easier to find. And of course, there's going to be a few games that are going to be up there in price. I actually have picked up a few of them, but not the crazy expensive ones. So if you come down here, one of them that I did pick up is Curse, that I picked up at a garage sale.
I just wanted to take a peek at that. I've never seen this artwork. Is it a horror game?
I believe so.
Because this looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I did not know anything about that game either. I was never into horror, and it is complete.
As much as I love horror, though, I got to admit, I didn't grow up with the Xbox either. I don't have a lot of love for the console. I know some people might give me backlash for that, but I was more of a, as you know, PlayStation guy than I ever was Xbox. So.
Yeah. Another one that I actually did find, I can't remember where I purchased this. I believe it was at a thrift store. Is actually a Concord, and
is this one sealed because it's in the case as well?
I'm trying to remember if I thought I had one sealed, but maybe, nope, it is not this one. It's actually a different one. Some of the more higher priced games I also throw in the protector just to kind of protect it a little bit further. So it's not every single protector that you see will be sealed. So it's just the higher end games in each system that I tried to protect a little bit better. The one that I'm actually thinking of is the Blinks. This one I actually have sealed. And so I did pick this one up sealed. This one, it was also at a thrift store.
Is there a few in this Blinks franchise, or is this the only one?
There's a Blinks 2.
It has to be this one, because this is resonating with me, I think, in one of my pickups. But I gotta admit, most of the Xbox games that I've ever found have that gigantic Microsoft sticker on it, if you know what I'm talking about. Yes, that was never in that Blinks. I sold it. It had that on it.
Okay.
And it was almost near impossible to take off.
Okay. So getting back to that Curse game that I mentioned earlier at the garage sale, I don't think I pulled them out, but I actually also picked up both of the Godzillas at that same garage sale, and every single one was $3 each. So, and then I think I picked up a few other ones, but they weren't as expensive. But now that I'm thinking a little bit more about it,
seeing a Jurassic Park,
same garage sale, I picked up the Operation Genesis Jurassic Park as well for $3. So this was a massive garage sale. It was actually very close. It was in the next city over, and I hit it during my lunch break from work, and I was dancing in my head because I didn't want to show how excited I was to get all these games for such a good deal. But man, was I overly excited when I got back. So as you can see, I'm kind of running out of room for this collection for Xbox. So as you can kind of come around, you'll actually come around over to here where the rest of my collection is. Not as much of a notable games over here, but some good ones. Star Wars, Old Republic 1 and 2. So like I said, this is actually my biggest collection so far as percentage. I believe I'm at 67% of the collection itself, and that is actually only for original Black Label Xbox games, not the Platinum hits. And then I just remembered and saw it. Don't think it's as valuable on the original Xbox, but we do have it.
As it is with the PS.
Correct. Yeah. And then also the same with Hit and Run, just pretty much right next to it.
Simpsons Hit and Run. This is a classic. I grew up with this on the PlayStation as well. Fun game. I think they've been remaking it, unless it's another YouTuber that I've been watching who's doing it on his own. I thought there was something, and granted, who knows what's true, what's not, but that thing I think deserves a remake, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Although I did enjoy Crazy Taxi a little bit better than Hit and Run myself.
I've seen Crazy Taxi, never played it though.
Another kind of sealed one that's, I don't think it's worth too much, but Siberia. Don't see that very often. Has a little bit of sun damage, unfortunately, but still pretty fun. And then again, with like my systems, other systems that I've mentioned in the past, I have the greatest, or I'm so used to saying greatest hits, it's platinum hits for Xbox. So I have that at the end here. And so it's not too many. And then if I have a loose game, I mentioned this earlier, it's in a different color. This particular one is in a different color case. That's just a loose game. And then this one, I purposely had backwards because this is actually, it's in the original case, but it's a Platinum Hits game itself. So unfortunately, in this case, I would actually like to have a Platinum Hits to go with the disc itself, but it is what it is. So it's still Silent Hill 2. And then from there, I've moved on, as you can see, to the 360. And as you can see, this is going to be quite a bit of my wall is Xbox. It's actually pretty much the whole wall. All right, guys, I've kind of transitioned over here to this other part of this same wall for Xbox. As you maybe kind of course, know NCAA football 14 is going to be the most expensive, at least in my collection at this point. Be on the lookout, of course, for 14, but also be on the lookout for 13. It does hold a little bit of money, but of course not as much as the other NCAA footballs, but it is actually something to look out for. And then as you can see, I have quite a few systems here, quite a few games here. Another notable one is Splatterhouse, and that's actually a sealed game as well, so that holds some value. So those are kind of the notable ones from my 360. 360 doesn't hold a whole lot of value at this point. It's just kind of another system that's easier to collect for and find. So it's just nice and easy to add to my collection. I did actually, if I remember correctly, did have a 360 growing up. So some of these are from that, but I would say maybe I had 20 games growing up. So I've added quite a bit since my active collecting within the last 6 years. So again, you'll see a few of them that are flipped upside down. So those are missing the game. I don't see any right offhand, but as you're seeing my collection, oh, here's a Need for Speed. So I did mention earlier about TurboGrafx 16 that I grew up with it. This is actually my collection from my childhood. And I've actually pulled out a few games because I enjoy them so much. I'll actually pull out a couple. So Battle Royale is actually a kind of a fun wrestling game type game, and it's just so fun for parties and such. And as you can see, it's got the wrestling guys on the front there. Such a fun game, especially if you get your own character that you enjoy so much and you get to learn the special moves and all that. So that was a very enjoyable game, especially at parties. My best friend growing up actually also had a TurboGrafx, so we would bring games to each other and play at each other's houses and such for like birthday parties and that kind of thing. One of my most favorite RPGs is actually on the TurboGrafx 16, Final Lap Twin. So I don't know if it would be considered a JRPG. If not, just a fun game. So that top-down view, and then you get you actually what it is, it's like RC cars that you're racing, and so you can upgrade the cars. It's kind of like RC Pro-Am, but just a lot more enjoyable. I played this game many times over, and it's just a fun one. And then of course Bonk's Adventure, the mascot for the TurboGrafx. Such another fun game. I enjoyed the first one the most. They do have a Bonk's 2, and then they have Air Zonk, which is kind of a takeoff off of Bonk. So that's very sought after. But wish I could have gotten more games for the TurboGrafx 16. Another fun one, Dungeon Explorer. So as you can probably tell, you are an explorer, you go through dungeons, so it's kind of like a Zelda takeoff. That's a pretty fun one. So as you can see, it's had some kind of tears and rips and such with the manual. So with it being from the 80s, that's going to be understandable. But cool thing, like I said earlier about the TurboGrafx, is these cards, and then you can put them into the Turbo Express as well. So that's actually the game right there. So if you have never seen or looked at or played TurboGrafx, so put those down there for now. So.
I got a quick question though.
Go ahead.
When you said Bonks, because for me, the TurboGrafx is a foreign console. I've never played it, never owned it, let alone never even found it.
Right.
So with Bonks, how is he kind of like the face of the system, like you brought up? Is he just kind of an icon for the Turbo, like Mario is to Nintendo?
Right. Yep. So, but I don't think he was their official mascot. I don't think they actually ever really had one, especially here in America. I was going to say Minnesota. But to me, when I think of Bonk, I think of the TurboGrafx 16. So that's where I associate him as a mascot of the TurboGrafx 16. So I don't think he was officially the actual mascot. I don't think it was actually around enough to have an actual mascot for it. But like I said, whenever I think of Bonks, I think of TurboGrafx. I think he's actually on a couple of other systems as well. So he's not a, just for the TurboGrafx. But like I said, whenever I think of Bonks, I think of TurboGrafx. So,
well, that's cool. I just had to ask because, like I said, TurboGrafx is still on the hunt list to say.
Yeah. So very hard to find, and I'm glad that I have at least this collection here. I also still have the box for the system itself. It doesn't have any of the inserts, unfortunately, but that again is for my personal collection from growing up. So. All right, we'll be moving on to Sega Saturn and CD next, so let's go over there. All right, so I don't have a huge Sega CD or Saturn collection, but as you can see, I have a pretty decent value for some of the games here. Pretty much all these Sega CD games came out of one sale that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. We got Vey. That's a pretty fun one.
This is another console I'd say that is pretty obscure, at least when I'm out hunting.
Yep.
I found a few, but nothing crazy. Yep. I wish I honestly could find more.
And then another one, Lunar, which is also
Lunar. Is this the same Lunar as PS1?
I believe so, but don't quote me on that.
That is really cool box art, though.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I did not grow up on the Sega CD or actually really any Sega consoles, so this is all somewhat new to me. I do, of course, know that the Sega CDs and Sega Saturn are hard to get, just like you were saying. So, do have a few loose games here. These were just kind of found throughout. That I think I got with the system, Virtual Cop 2, Virtual Cop 1. Let's see, Ultimate Mortal Kombat. Third World War, and then a Sonic CD. So I believe 2 or 3 of these I actually found at a garage sale. They were, of course, loose like this, 50 cents each. So it was pretty crazy. Again, I was kind of jumping out of my head with the excitement of finding Sega CD games for 50 cents at a garage sale. So keep looking, keep asking. These were actually out, which was kind of surprising. I did not have to ask for these, but I, of course, did ask if they had more games, and unfortunately they did not. And then from here, we'll be moving on to the Wii, which is right next to it here. Of course, Wii has a lot of kind of filler titles, but it also does have a few decently priced games. Now, with my system here, as you can probably tell that the Wii games are sticking out quite a bit. I do need to build some more shelves, but as you can see, and as I move these here, my Wii is actually double stacked here on this
I
shelf.
didn't even know that when I first came in.
So I did kind of pull out a couple of the more expensive games that were actually tucked behind. One of them actually being, oddly enough, a chess game.
Really?
And it's called Fritz. I think it has a very low production count, so that's why it's kind of expensive.
I was just going to ask you what kind of... I've never heard of it, obviously, but...
Yeah. This one I actually found on... this was early on in my collecting years, so probably five and a half years ago, and it was on a Facebook Marketplace. Cannot recall how much I paid for it, but it was in a bundle with some other games and a system, so... I jumped on it as soon as I saw. I didn't really know at the time that it was expensive, but I was just looking for games for my collection, and so it was kind of a happy turnaround when I was able to see that it was worth something. And then another one that I kind of pulled up from behind as well is the Metroid Prime trilogy.
I had a sealed copy of this at one point. Is this sealed?
This is not sealed. So I actually did.
I have a horror story with mine, but
I pulled this out and actually played Metroid on my Wii using this exact copy when it first came out. So I actually, if I remember correctly, sold my Prime and Prime 2 because I had actually picked up this copy. Of course, at the time, I didn't think that I would need the other GameCube games, and just wanted to play all of them using the Wii. So that's kind of my two really expensive games on the Wii that I can recall. Wii is actually my second most completed collection. I think I want to say 54% of the collection. So as you can see, that's quite a bit. It's kind of moved over into this other section as well. There is, of course, some Player's Choice Player's Choice. Another kind of higher end game, which I kind of forgot about until I just saw it now, is the Living Dead? House of the Dead 2 and 3 Return. Now I have two of them here. They're both opened, but they actually have variant copies of the disc. So that's why I have two of them. So that's one thing that I also collect is when I'm going to check on my condition of the ones that I pick up, I always check to see if they have a different color disc or a different kind of disc, a different label on the disc. So that's to me considered a variant. So with this game, they're actually two different types of labels on the disc itself. So that's why I have two copies. All right, and then I think that's kind of the most kind of common games and sought-after games. As far as the Wii goes, my favorite game to play on the Wii is actually Twilight Princess. It's a Zelda game, of course. And some people don't like the motion controls, but for that game, I actually enjoy it. So I don't actually have a copy for the GameCube at this point, so that was like kind of my only way to play it at the time as well, so I certainly did enjoy that. As far as my next collection that you can kind of see on both sides, you can see a stack of games on the left, and I do have a section of games with a holder here, and that's the Wii U. And so of course everybody knows about the Wii U. Some of the crazier titles that I have for those, which I picked up off of OfferUp. The most expensive game that I have for the Wii U is Turbo.
I think that's the one thing I'm enjoying right now is the most odd titles that I never expect to have value.
Yep. So then another one that does hold some value, and it's because it is sealed, is I have a Xenoblade Chronicles X. And that one is sealed.
I thought Wii U's also been a little bit on the upward trend too.
It is, yep. And then, oddly enough, Twilight Princess for the Wii U is actually starting to rise in cost as well. So I do have that. And then, kind of continuing on here with Zelda games, I do have a Breath of the Wild sealed still. I do also have an open copy. This, unfortunately, is the second run, so it does have the two controllers. So if you guys don't know, there is actually a earlier run of this game, a first print, that has 6 controllers on the back here instead of the 2. So that is considered an error because those 6 controllers are not able to be used for this game. So that's why that's an error. That one is a little bit pricier. I actually do have a copy of that. I believe it's in this stack somewhere. And it's not sealed, it's just opened, but it's always nice to have. All right, next here we have my Switch collection, and just a couple of titles to mention. I do have Attack on Titan 2, still sealed. So I do have them in the cases, of course. So that's up there in price. And then Minecraft Story Mode is also up there as well. That one's still sealed. So these have more value because they are still sealed. So that's those. I'm enjoying Zelda, and I'm waiting for the second Zelda to come out, Tears of the Kingdom. I love Breath of the Wild so much, but we'll see how Tears of the Kingdom works out. And then kind of a more odder one that I have, this is still brand new sealed, is a Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy with a special controller. This doesn't have a ton of worth. It's starting to kind of go up in price, but it is a more rare item. So that will do it for Switch. I love the Switch, and I'd love to find more games, but it's kind of hard to find them either good deals at thrift stores or garage sales. I have picked up a few Switch games at garage sales, but not too many. Maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 so far. So, going to be hard, but I'm sure they're going to be easier and easier to come by in the next few months here, and hopefully a couple years. So here's my, at least the start of my PS1 collection. With my setup here, I have to kind of find space where I have it and kind of move stuff around as I'm getting different games and different systems. So as you can see, it starts here after the NES. Do have just quite a lot of just filler titles. I do have a few kind of nicer titles, more expensive. So to start with, actually I think my most expensive one, it's actually Namco Museum Volume 5 with the O. So I was actually looking this up earlier. This actually runs $200 right now.
Really?
On price charting.
CIB?
CIB, complete
I would have
price.
never guessed.
Yeah. So if you don't know, this Namco Museum, this is Volume 5. This is the very last one. And with the big O, they actually wrote out Namco on all of their artwork on the front. So this is the last one with the O. So I think it's actually a lower run count, so that's maybe why it's a little bit more expensive. I'll just put that down there. Another one here, Digimon World. I actually picked this up at an estate sale.
What is this going for now? And I'm only saying this because I think this was actually one of my pickups in like my first hunting days at a garage sale.
I think I remember seeing that.
I've had a few Digimons back in the day.
Don't recall what it goes for, but it is up there as one of the higher for my collection here.
And I always got rid of my Digimon stuff though, just because I was always more of a Pokemon guy. Yeah, I could never get behind the Digimon life.
I think I mentioned it already, but I was never into Pokemon growing up. Actually was never into Digimon either.
Oh, I thought you were about to say you're into Digimon. I was like, it would be the opposite.
So as far as like PS1 games, I think I played the most of actual Final Fantasy VII. I actually cut over to that for in the other section of my PS1 because it's kind of a weird title or kind of. Let me just show you. So here's the rest of my PS1 collection. It's kind of strung out here with two shelves here. So kind of a short one here, and then my longer shelf with the greatest hits. So what I was just talking about with the Final Fantasy, it's actually very odd. So like I said, it's Final Fantasy VII. Of course, everybody loves that. So on the front cover art, you see Black Label. This is my actual copy from when I grew up. When you look on the back, or the spine, I should say, you have greatest hits. So what is it? Is it
But the
Black
other
Label?
side's also a Black Label.
Is it greatest hits?
I'm curious, did you ever do any like looking into online or whatnot?
I haven't looked at this, so I don't know if this is an error or if this was common or what. So I have this actually with my greatest hits section, but I'm kind of curious as to...
So good segment there. I guess if any of you guys know, if you've seen this, please drop a comment below.
Certainly. I would like to know more about this. I suppose I could look into it, but I'd actually rather view the comments from you guys, seeing what you know about that, and see if we can get to the bottom of that. So, as I said earlier, there's quite a slew of games here. Some of the kind of bigger titles over here I have Resident Evil games. So I have Survivor in the front here. And then I have Nemesis with the Dino Crisis. So it's got both discs in there. And then one without Dino Crisis.
Do you ever know why? Because I've had that Dino Crisis a few times. Why they put that in with Resident Evil?
I don't know.
I always thought that was just such an odd combo.
I'm not quite sure myself, but you can see the back of the disc there. So it is in there. I suppose I could pull it out, but I think I'll leave it there. So I'm not quite sure. I wonder if maybe Dino Crisis wasn't selling as much, so they tried to promote it with Resident Evil. I'm not quite sure, but
might not be a bad idea either, because isn't Dino Crisis kind of up there for value, or at least has a little bit as well?
I think maybe it's gotten more value because of the crossover and in regards to this. So, again, something to leave in the comments below, guys, and see if we can get to the bottom of that as well. So, other than that, I kind of have just a lot of filler titles. My biggest, remembrance of the PS1 is actually playing Final Fantasy VII, kind of a short story. When I was a kid, and probably my teens, I was actually, not to root out my parents or anything, but I was home all weekend by myself. And on the Saturday of that weekend, I actually played Final Fantasy VII for 14 hours. Of course, I stopped for bathroom breaks and getting some food, but my mom was very mad when she heard that, when she came home and asked me how I did or what I did for the weekend. But that was just something that I'll never forget. And of course, I got through the game quite a bit. I was actually almost towards the end, so that helped me get that much closer to being towards the actual end of the game. And just enjoyed that game so much. That was probably one of my favorite games on the PS1. Here's my PS2 and PS3 and somewhat PS4 wall. Got, of course, a big wall here with lots of titles here. So I'll just pick out a few. I'll talk about them a little bit. So as far as value, we do have, I don't think it's my most expensive game, but I'm just grabbing it because it's right behind me here. It does actually have some water damage to it, unfortunately, but it's Dragon Ball Z Infinite World. This actually I picked up at a garage sale on an ask. So ask. And it did actually come with some GameCube games, which was kind of weird because I got a system, GameCube games, and then one PS2 game, this game. So it does have the manual, which is actually in good shape, but it's just the cover art that has the damage, unfortunately. So there's that. And then as far as value, one that's up there, but I don't believe... Nope, it's not my most expensive game. I think it's either my second or third most expensive game. It's the Guy game. And from what I understand, which you can certainly correct me in the comments if you'd like, I believe this was actually pulled because of the content on the game. And so it was apparently too much for a mature audience. So this one I actually found for $1 at a garage sale. This one was actually out. I didn't have to ask for it. So this one was maybe 3 years ago that I picked this up. So be on the lookout for a Guy game. I actually picked up a second copy that has just the manual, which has a big crease down the center of it, and then the disc itself, so it doesn't have the cover art. So just kind of keeping that, holding on to that, and hopefully we'll find maybe a copy with just the cover art and not a game to get for dirt cheap or at a garage sale or whatever. So. Another couple of expensive games. I have Obscure: The Aftermath for the PS2. Actually, I think I just threw it in here for protection. It's not sealed. So that's just like the other systems. Obscure games are kind of up there in price.
That was one I was after when I had my little PS2 section.
Yeah.
And I think there's another Obscure, isn't there? It's more of a white cover. It's a little bit more valuable, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure about PS2, but I know there's an Obscure on the original Xbox.
That might be it as well, I'm thinking, yeah.
I think has a whiter kind of cover art to it, and I need that one for my collection. I think that would, that's kind of, I think, one of the highest priced games on the original Xbox. So my most expensive game that I currently have is Silent Hill 4.
The Room. I remember distinctly too. I got this from a guy. I think it was like $30-$40.
Yep.
And I love the cover art. As you know, I'm a big horror fan. You guys probably heard that a million times on the channel, but there's just something about it I like.
I think I picked this up for $30 as well.
So
and it was at a
good price point.
Garage sale. It was like right down the road from my house, so it was pretty sweet. It was again on a lunch break, and just hit it up. And this one was sitting right out on the table, so I had to grab that one, of course. So I think we're getting pretty towards the end here. A couple of games that I just want to point out that I really enjoyed playing on the PS2. Probably one of my favorite games to play when I had the PS2 growing up was SSX Tricky. I know it doesn't hold a whole lot of value, but I just loved playing this game so much.
That's hilarious. The amount of times I've found that is ridiculous. It's up there.
It's such a fun game, though.
It is.
I actually have.
I've never tried it. Yeah.
I've tried the original, like just the SSX, and it's not as fun as the Tricky. It's the combos and stuff the characters in this game just make it a very fun game to play. So I've actually tried the original SSX and didn't like that as half as much. And then another one that I enjoyed playing was Onimusha. And I believe I played through the first, and I'm trying to remember if I played the second. I know I for sure beat the first one.
See, the Onimusha that I had, I tucked it to the side, and I don't know what I did with it. It actually had the trading cards in it, but still sealed.
Oh, nice.
Like with the original pack. So I didn't know if that added any value, because every Onimusha I've ever found that has had the trading cards never had this. And it might have not been the first one, but it was part of the Onimusha series. I know there's one that has like a Target exclusive like trading cards in it.
This actually does say Target exclusive here. Free hint card enclosed. So I don't know if, is that the card that you're talking about?
It wasn't a single. It was like a genuine pack. Like anything of like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd have to look into it. I can always throw it up on screen too, so people know what I'm talking about.
I'd love to know about that, because
I gotta see if I still have it at the house. If anything, it'd be tucked away.
Yeah. All right, so that was kind of it for the PS2. As you guys can probably check for some of the other footage, you'll see kind of more of the other titles as well. So moving into PS3, actually, I just recalled that kind of off camera a little bit here, I'm going to just grab one more game, and it's actually Silent Hill 2, but it's a greatest hits. So that does have some value. But of course, with it being greatest hits, it's a little less. So I actually, as you can see, I have no room on this wall, so I do need to build another shelf. So I do have some games. I actually have all of my greatest hits kind of off and just stacked on a table over here. So you may see some video on that. It's probably not going to show very much, unfortunately, just the way that I have it displayed. So I do need to build another shelf to help with that. So with that, I will move into the PS3. PS3, of course, also is pretty full. So the same thing goes with that I have stacks kind of on another table. A couple of things to note that I was able to still grab. It's not my most expensive, but it's pretty fun to talk about real quick here. Is Shadows of the Damned, and this one is sealed.
That is a cool looking cover art, though. I've never seen that.
I've never played the game, but so as I'm bringing that up, I do want to let you guys know I am not just a collector, I am a gamer as well. So those of you who are in the comments saying, "Oh, he's just hoarding," I'm a gamer as well. So just so you guys.
I mean, also, realistically, the amount of games as well, it is pretty difficult to get through them.
Yeah, that is correct. All right, so then on to my most expensive PS3 games. They're just kind of around the corner here. You might have gotten some rolls on it before. Just kind of with like the 360, I have Football 14. And then this one's actually, I think because of the TV show, this is actually a sealed copy of The Last of Us. So that's got some value to it. So as you guys are over here, we do have some more PS3 games over here stacked, and of course stacked on each other. So that's what I've kind of come down to doing at this point. So I'll just need to build some more shelves, and that should just about do it then. So got a little bit more to go here with another couple of systems, and then I'll show just a kind of some of the, or Dylan will show the stacks of games that I have kind of laid out that I need shelving for. So like I was just saying, this is what it's come to for my collection. Just needing to build some more shelving units. I have the plans to kind of do that. I just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. So like I was saying, I have them kind of just stacked here. I have my greatest hits over here. I actually put the Silent Hill back. And then, so that's all my greatest hits. And then PS3, this is actually a shorter stack, and then 3 stacks back. And then PS4, I do have some brand new stuff in here. Small stack of PS5. And then, of course, just some more PS4. PS4 is just kind of like the Xbox One, where the value of games kind of drop after a few months, just because they're so easy to find, or it's there digitally, so people aren't buying them, and if they do have them, it's not going for very much. So I'm able to pick them up for dirt cheap, and hopefully at some point in the far future they'll be worth something a little bit more type of thing, but still fun and adding to the collection. So also one thing that I couldn't fit in all these shelving units is actually my Genesis collection, which is right next to us here. So I never grew up with the Genesis. I did play it a few times at friend's house, so it's not that much of a nostalgia thing for me, but of course I find them and grab them. My most expensive game so far is this Zero, the Kamikaze Squirrel. It is unfortunately missing the manual, so if anybody has one, you can certainly reach out to me or to Dylan, and he can certainly get to me. When they do finally pop up on eBay, it's for pretty crazy amounts, so I'm not going to be doing that, not going to be paying that amount for just a manual, but it would be fun to be able to complete it. And do have a couple of other pretty decent games here. I have Castlevania Bloodlines, but it's going to be towards the back of my stacks here. Just like with the PS3, I have actually 4 stacks, and then this last one with the shorter one. Do have a few Game Gear games. I have this one complete in box Game Gear game. So I picked this up at a flea market. It was like an antique show, and I think that was for like $5. So pretty fun. And so we'll be moving on over to our little table setup with some boxed consoles next. All right, guys, so here's my table of my boxed consoles. I do have quite a few more than this, but this was just a select few that I grabbed. So don't remember where I got every single one of these, but I'll certainly mention it if I do remember. So let's start with here. I have a Nintendo Action Set. This is complete in box. It does have some kind of normal wear damage around the corners, so that's pretty decent. I want to say I bought this off of Facebook Marketplace, but I'm not 100% sure.
The box looks good, though. I gotta say, every box that I have found is so bowed out. You know, it needs some type of pressing.
Yep. And then I think if I also get a protector on it, it will also make it look a lot nicer.
I would say protectors, yeah. And you said it has a styrofoam too?
So yeah, this one is complete with the styrofoam and everything. One thing I'm not quite sure about is the manual. I can't quite remember if it has it or not, but I can certainly grab that later on if it doesn't. So this next one here, I did mention that I did have a deluxe set growing up, so that was my first system. This is unfortunately not that box. I would love to have kept that box, but this is actually a box that I found, boy, it was quite a while ago. I think it was like 4 years ago, I want to say. It was on an Ask at a garage sale. Now, this unfortunately does not have the styrofoam, so there is a complete system in here. And then you should have actually seen the Gyromite, or the Rob the Robot with playing Gyromite earlier on, or maybe going forward in the video here. So this one also has some roughness to it. So, and that's pretty rough in the back too, but still nice to have.
My box I had looked almost identical to yours, about the same wear and tear.
Yeah, so.
Would be really cool to get a mint set.
Now this one, I really enjoy this one. Got some dust on it, unfortunately. That's the joys of being in the basement. But it's Super Nintendo. This one is complete. It's got the styrofoam on the top. The box is in pretty good shape. It's, of course, some rough corners here, but that I grabbed off of Facebook Marketplace. $80-$90, I believe. And the guy knew what he had, but he just wanted to get rid of it. So that was fun to pick up. That was a late night when it was snowing, and so it was just kind of a fun trip. It wasn't too far away from my house. So next one here that I'll just grab. So I talked about it earlier, TurboGrafx 16. So this is my original box growing up. Unfortunately, it does not have the inserts, or I believe it's styrofoam. It does have a software, etc. price tag on it. And if I remember correctly, we picked this up from the Mall of America. One cool thing about it, and I'll just open it up real quick here. Like I said, it doesn't have any inserts, but I do actually have some of the accessories for the TurboGrafx. So we got Turbo Express AC adapter. So you probably won't see those too often. And then we have the Turbo Express car adapter. And I don't have it displayed anywhere, but I still actually have the Turbo Express as well.
That's funny. There's a car adapter for it.
Yeah.
It's exactly. Like I said, this is a console to me that's still very foreign. So seeing this is still kind of fun for me. Yeah. And
so I even got a Electronics Boutiques. And then this was really, very cool at the time. So of course this was in the 80s, early 90s. It's actually what's called a Turbo Vision. So this is something that you attach to the side of the Turbo Express. It kind of latches in, and then there's a screw, and you would be able to bring up TV channels on the Turbo Express. So my brother and I would actually use this to watch TV when we were on family trips. And I believe, if I remember correctly, there's also a port where you can plug in like an RCA cable. You have to have, of course, have it split to go to like a DVD player. And so you would technically be able to watch DVDs on this as well. So a little rough on the box, but probably don't see that too often either. So I do have some more accessories for the TurboGrafx and such, but they're they're kind of stored away at this point. So I just haven't been able to grab them out, but just thought I'd show you guys that. This actually did go through a move when I was a kid. So it does actually have writing on the top of it. It says Zach's Room over the top here. And I can't remember what this says. Boxes, something unbreakable. I think I put stuff in here for traveling or for moving with my parents when I was a kid. So of course I probably wrote on what it was. So. All right, so the next one here is actually one of my grails from last year. This was on an ask. So again, ask. So this is a brand new control deck. Now you can't really tell for sure because there's no seal on it.
Oh, I mean the box condition is a big giveaway right now, though. Yeah,
you do see the corners and edges. Wear right here. That's the only wear that I could see. There is some minor damage here and then this corner as well. Talking about labels again, we actually have down here where it says Target stores. And it says like their return and exchange policy.
I love those little types of things.
Yeah, that is so cool. So we will actually do a little bit of B-roll of me actually opening this up and of course being very careful and showing you what I mean by being brand new. You guys will see the baggies and everything. You can't even fathom how crisp and good it looks.
I'm excited to see. So, the way you're talking about it makes me want to see it. Yeah.
I asked about this. So what it was is that I walked up to a garage sale. It was like there was Tinker Toys and knickknacks and like household goods, and so I would have never thought I would be able to get a video game system from this garage sale. But of course I asked. And another thing too about asking is not just saying, do you have any video games? I always will say, do you have any video games such as Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox?
Be a little bit more descriptive with it.
Be descriptive, because a lot of people think video games, oh no, I don't have any video games. But then if you say what you're looking for, Nintendo, such and such, oh yeah, I think we do have a Genesis or an Xbox or whatever. So that actually does help. It's actually helped quite a bit for me. So we'll get back to this one with that B-roll. I was going crazy when I was looking at this because I actually opened it up at the garage sale just to see what the condition was.
And you were probably shaking in the moment.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I as soon as I got in the car, I actually drove away a little bit and then I screamed.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
And it was just crazy. So
that's the best part about hunting, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to say how much I paid for it, unfortunately. I know I've said some of the other things. That's going to be just between me and myself. I'll tell you that it was a crazy deal. Another quick thing about this purchase was that the guy that was selling it, he was looking on eBay for sold listings. He couldn't find any sold listings for this exact thing with the control deck. So he couldn't come up with an actual amount for me. So I gave him an amount, he countered, and I took that. So again, I'm not going to say how much it was, but it's pretty crazy. And when I got home, I finally did look up myself and had a lot more time to look into it. I did actually see a sold one for this exact item. I don't think it had the Target sticker on it, but it was for $2,500 on eBay, and that was multiple years ago. And it also actually didn't look as good as mine. These were just kind of accessible, so I grabbed them. Got a Grand Theft Auto 5 PS3 Super Slim. I picked this up at a pawn shop in a local city that I frequent. Can't remember what I paid for this. I want to say $70 maybe 60, somewhere around in there. So it does, of course, show some wear. Got a tab that's kind of messed up there. Got rips over here on the side, but it was just fun to grab. I think that was also on a lunch break. So kind of fun. And then Wii U. So I actually have my original Wii U, but that's not included with these two boxes. I've actually picked up a couple of Wii U bundles off of Facebook Marketplace. I believe this was one that was actually sent through the mail. So unfortunately, I couldn't see the condition of it. I maybe would have passed on it if I would have seen some of this up here, which it didn't show in the pictures, unfortunately. But it's always fun to grab it, and man, are they heavy. So it was a little bit for shipping as well. So. And this one here was actually a Facebook Marketplace grab. So this was actually in really good shape. I'm actually surprised at the quality of this one, especially with it being from someone else. Actually, hopefully we can get this edited correctly. Yeah. I actually have a present for you.
Oh, you did not have to do that.
To start your PS1 collection.
Oh, that's hilarious. You didn't have to do that, though, by the way.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm doing it.
He's throwing me off on camera right now. We're supposed to be doing the outro right now.
Yep. So this is cool. A sealed skydiving extreme.
Oh, wow.
I did pick it up dirt cheap at a garage sale, so it's not much out of my pocket, but I am giving this to you to start your collection.
Well, I appreciate it. Can I take a peek at it, though? Just because I've never actually seen this either.
I have never played the game. I had never heard of it until this copy. I actually picked up multiple copies.
Well, I'm picking up a bookshelf strategically for this, so this will be the first one on there.
Right.
So
sounds good.
If you guys don't know, it's been plugged on my Instagram. I still kind of have yet to start the series, so it's either going to be started by the time this episode airs or it'll be after. I'm trying to build a PlayStation 1 collection basically from scratch, using profits from reselling and flipping to fund the collection, kind of like what Zach said, finding everything cheap, garage sales, thrift stores. So that was pretty neat. Thank you.
Cheapest is free, guys.
Yes, free works. We will count it for now. I mean, technically that is free, but no, thank you. That'll be the first one in the collection. So,
well, thank you for coming over.
And thank you for letting me film. I appreciate it. Hopefully, you guys got a little bit of a sneak peek and dive into Zach's collection here. Massive. He said about 7,200 games, lots of crazy titles. Hopefully, you got something out of it. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will catch all of you in the next episode. I was going to say next flip. We're not flipping. Next episode. All right. See you later.
Peace, guys.